So I think everybody here probably knows Kelly. Does everybody know Kelly?
Yeah.
Introduce herself, but she's going to get you really excited. Felicia and I went to Day of Discovery, when was that?
September, mid-September.
Mid-September. And
Yeah.
she got us all excited again, and then we were talking after that. So invited her today.
And here we are. So first thing I want to do is run through the stack that you have. So everybody's stack is a little bit different. And that's because I included some things you might want to share with your teachers. So the first thing you have is my card. So if you need anything, please feel free to reach out, email me, call me, whatever. I got everybody just an SOS packet. I'm going to show you where to find these. So if you want to share them, we have them readily available if you want to do an activity with teachers, some of that sort of thing. I also have for everyone an SOS bulletin board kit that if you wanted to set up like in your teacher's lounge, in your library, back somewhere, like just one that highlights, kind of reminding teachers to look at them. There's a little folder in here if you wanted to do like one SOS strategy a month that maybe you run enough for everybody to grab one. We've heard teachers say that these are really great like near a copy machine. So like while they're standing there making copies, they're kind of staring at it a little bit. They might see the one of the month. And then
We got like 3 copies.
y'all cannot tell anybody that I brought every one of them in school. These are like hot commodities. So I just had to sneak away, like order some in small batches. You're not supposed to order a bunch of these. But they're really cool, great response. And if you do like pick one a month that teachers can use, it's a nice way to remind them. And like Allison was sharing, they set up kind of an opportunity for teachers to share what they've done. That may be something y'all look at doing as a district. Like, do you pick a SOS strategy a month and then set up like a Padlet or a Google form where anybody in the district could share how they did that? Because there's a lot of power in seeing other ideas from other schools and other teachers. How did you use AEIOU? Oh, like sometimes teachers connect better with how another teacher used it rather than an instructional technology person or you guys. So I want everybody to have a kit. And then the other thing I have for you is kind of just some stacks of some different contests and things that are going on, some resources that are available. So this Chase the Race is election resources that are great for teaching about the election. They have student reporters who have covered the entire kind of series. And so teachers, especially this year, are really wary of grabbing like media footage for some crazy reason for teaching the election, right? So these are great, and it's going to culminate in a live virtual field trip on Inauguration Day. So there's information there about that. For if you have middle school age students, so I think for you guys that's intermediate and middle. I gave you guys this one from Lockheed Martin. They are do space rocket development, and we just did a live virtual field trip with them, but they're doing a student video challenge right now that students design a space case for a project and can send in their entry and see if they win. So that might tie in. For my elementary and intermediate folks, I think I have it maybe one copy for everybody. This is a brand new one. It's called Life of a Can, and it's about recycling, and it kind of takes you through the full life cycle of a can. For you guys, you also have for high school the Toyota Team Drive. So this is a $15,000 prize, and it's a PSA that kids make on safe driving. The first year, it was like an Instagram challenge. So it's really not like a big production movie thing, but if you have somebody who, maybe a health class or somewhere where they're doing that kind of thing, a video production, I mean, why not try to win $15,000, right? And somebody from Pine Lake Prep actually won that 3 years ago. Sorry. Oh, I'm just saying. Somebody won. And what's interesting about all these contests is you think, oh my God, all these people are going to enter. They don't. Like, there's really not nearly as many people that enter submission contests as you would think there would be. So if you've got kids who are interested, definitely encourage them to do that. So, and then the last one, I was a little bit short, was this one just has kind of all of our educational programs. It's actually just in your service, and I'll show you where to find them because they're easier to sort through on there, and they're not so little tiny to try to read. But wanted to make sure you guys had those that you could give out and share.
Can I make one comment about the
Yeah.
SOS stuff? Sorry. You all are mostly doing that part already with the one of the month, and we have created, probably good for you to see, we have created these empowerment strategies, and there's 10 of them, and we're doing one a month, and then we're tying an SOS strategy to that. So these folks in the ITFs are doing that already, but the other thing I want to say is, and Kelly shared it with me, and I sent the email out to you all. Somebody asked for, where can we get this list of all the SOS strategies? And so we got this. Kelly sent it to me, and I sent it to you all. So, and along with the question she asked, so give her some feedback via email, because you all know we love these things, and they're great teaching tools for class.
Yeah.
So give Kelly some feedback. And talk to your teachers and stuff.
And I most definitely was going to bring that up. I'll pull it up. So we have currently right now 2 different views for seeing. We actually have 118, and this is the top 100, right? So we're missing a few, but this is one way. So there's kind of benefits to both, right? Like this is nice and visual, but it's only the titles. So if you're looking for a purpose, which is what we hope teachers are doing, not quite as helpful. The other one that I sent to Scott was, here's all the titles, here's the links, the descriptions, but then you can start, because it's in a Google spreadsheet, sorting by what's what. The only thing I don't like about this one is it's not really visually appealing, right? Like it's that element of what is what. So you want the functionality of a spreadsheet with something prettier, something that's more graphic. So I'd love to hear from you, in the next couple days, kind of what format you like, what you like about either format, and which one you think would be more useful. Like if somebody came to you and said, do you have a list of all the SOSs? Like what would that look like in a perfect world? Because we're trying to figure out a way to put that on our site so people can grab it, but that it makes the most sense. So I would love your feedback for sure. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to spend our time today looking at, and I hate to say I only have about 20 minutes, if that's how I got to scoot at 4:30.
I mean, if somebody's late, they can,
I do, because I have to pick up my kids by 6 o'clock, take their clothes.
And I'm
But
student too,
that's
so
fine.
go.
Thank you.
And what we can do is kind of roll in some pieces together, like some follow-up too, so I apologize for that. My babysitter called and said she was sick and couldn't pick up my little today. But I want to hit on what are some of the new features that came for back to school that might be of interest and use for you, as well as what are some of the newer features in place to help facilitate you sharing this back in your schools, right? Because you kind of have that twofold role. One of the pieces that's here, so this we call our cheetah space, because for a really long time there was a picture of a cheetah in there, right? And then they started changing it. We're like, what happened to the cheetahs? So we still just call it the cheetah space. This is always going to be your timely content. So like we do monthly themes, things for a holiday, lesson plan resources, virtual field trips. Like that's going to change. That's going to be stuff that is responsive to what your teachers might be asking about. Is there anything about Veterans Day? Well, in a couple weeks, there'll be something there about Veterans Day, Halloween, things like that. Now, one of the other features, and Allison mentioned that it really resonated with her and Felicia, was, are you guys familiar with the Global News? See some nods. So this comes out every single Wednesday. Okay, so this is the previous week's world news. There are 2 versions. There's a 612 and a K5. So there's a little caret right here. So if you click on the little down arrow, it'll let you pick which version that you want. And whichever one you pick is going to default to that for you. The K5 version is usually like 2 stories. The 612 is 7 or 8. None of them are over 5 minutes per week. But some really great ways to make connections across the board. Honestly, in intermediate NUB, I would use the 612 version. I wouldn't use the K5, right? I mean, I might want to kind of screen it a little bit, but the content's going to be good. For my elementary folks, one of the features that you might want to share with your teachers is that the K5 version actually has discussion questions that come with it. which are a really nice way when we look with and work with our teachers on how are we doing real-world connections to content through ELA. They're going, well, why would I have time for this, right? Like this doesn't tie into my standards. Well, if you look, the discussion questions tie in pieces like citing evidence, making inferences, some of those literacy skills that are then putting global content in the hands of kids while also making that strong literacy connection. Great for writing prompts, great for discussions, kind of whatever those pieces are to include vocabulary. Those are a really nice feature that unfortunately we're not doing right now for the 612 version, but are a really nice connection.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So we had a different resource that had a news kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we ran into trouble with the content not being appropriate for
Okay.
4 through 6. So I mean, I always think teachers should screen stuff beforehand
Yeah.
anyway, but you feel pretty confident that 4 through 6 would be okay, or?
I showed it in my 5th grade classroom without screening it.
Okay.
But, I mean, obviously the nice thing, it sits here all week, right? So maybe your news day is Friday instead of
Yeah.
Wednesday, the day it comes out. With the global wrap, you know, if you click the title, it's going to play the whole thing, but they could just play one particular segment of it that ties into content that they're teaching. Or for example, in 5th grade, we know that they study extreme weather and weather patterns. So your teacher may even decide to come back, take this Hurricane Matthew one, and save it in their content and use it when they're teaching, because 6 months from now, this is still a current event, right? So it's a nice way to make those curricular connections, even at the high school level, going, oh, okay, I teach this a little bit later. I want to know that it's available so I can help to kind of roll those pieces in together. So that's one. The other one is the on this day. We know that this scrolls here with like a fact of the day, but if you click on the title on this day, it is going to give you a full calendar that lets you go ahead all the way out, so they're all scheduled. Your teachers can, or you can, like if you do a news show and you want to include a fact of the day, and I wanted to grab tomorrow's, I can go ahead and just click on tomorrow, and I have a fact for all of these different topics, right? So that's readily available. And then the other piece that's really cool is these blue bars are what we call commemorations. And those are those holiday, quote, educational holidays that we celebrate: Breast Cancer Awareness Month, International Talk Like a Pirate Day, kind of all of those. But if a teacher clicks on that, they're going to get a description of that event as well as resources in their Discovery account to help teach them about it. So I could go ahead to Veterans Day. I could go ahead to, you know, National Hispanic Awareness Month and go ahead and find things within their Discovery accounts that are going to help them address that content so they can plan ahead with that. So any questions about the on this day calendar, or thoughts on how you might use that with kids or your teachers?
I was looking for a calendar like that, and that I used to use Library Sparks, and I can't get that anymore. So
There you go. At the intermediate secondary level, a lot of teachers like this, because like as a math teacher, you're like, I can't ever find a math thing of the day. So there's always a math, you know, kind of a nice connection. Or if you're doing a news show, it can pull from different types of facts. So it really ties in across the curriculum. Worked with one teacher who had her kids in the first week of school, instead of putting up the birthday chart with like their month and the date, they went to her chart had like October, Kelly, the day that, I'm like making up it, Columbus landed in wherever, right? So the kids would research all the facts that happened on the day that they were born, and they didn't put the number on the chart. They put one of the things that happened, and then every month they spent part of their time doing research and summarizing, and they would go in and see if they could figure out when the kids that were born in October, what was their date. Right, so it was like a little investigative thing, and it was actually an 8th grade teacher, and she said, what I really needed this for was to see if they could read this description. Who knew it was Vegetarian Awareness Month? I'm sorry, I get distracted about things. So like, she said, can they read this and summarize it like on one sticky note? Right? She's like, I did it as a quick formative. Can they get to the gist of this in one sentence or less? If they couldn't do that in the first week in 8th grade, I knew I had other things to like really build on. So,
Story.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. So it's kind of, I thought, what a neat way to assess your kids on summarizing where they had no idea that you were actually assessing them on summarizing. So those are two of the features that are living kind of right there on that homepage, but so many of us kind of come straight here and start typing stuff in, and we don't take the time to scroll down. You've also got here kind of your activity feed. So think Facebook style. These are the things that are coming up. Virtual field trips. So for example, there was one today that was a middle school field trip on sustainability that was live from an egg farm. So those are all going to come up. There are autumn resources that have been pulled together. A new one with the DEA on opioid abuse. Some pieces here for Hispanic Heritage Month. So lots of different resources of what is up and coming. Okay. Have you seen something new? Thought about something new? It's good. All right. One of the other pieces that we're seeing lots of teachers connecting with is they open it up and we have a new search engine. Okay, so the view on a search is a little bit different. It used to default to the gray bars down the side, and now we've kind of gone horizontal with it. So just so you know, if your teachers are looking for things, they can sort by, here's my videos, and now I get additional filters on the left. Once I categorize, I've heard several of you mention Board Builder. Last summer we ran an update that you can now make editable copies of boards, and teachers can take them as their own. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
So if I love this board, if, right? Because that's usually what happens. That would be perfect if. So they find a board that they really like. They add it to their content. So you find your board, you click add to my content. So I pick where it goes in my content, and then I open it from my content. Okay? I always say that my content's like the junk drawer in the kitchen. You don't want the company to open it. I'm like, no, sorry, don't look, don't look. But when you open it from your content, you now get the editing bars, and it's made you your own editable copy of it. So you can reshare it. The great thing for this is that students also have that feature. So think building templates, a lab report template, a book report template, a research project template. They can create the template they like, assign it to their students. The student opens it, adds it to their content, and they now have their own copy, which is a really cool feature to tie that in, and they just submit it to the teacher. Any questions about that? Pretty simple, right? Add to my content and open it from my content. So we can filter by images, your audio files. There are podcasts and audiobooks in here. I don't know if you guys were familiar with that. It's a little hard to filter by some of those. Unfortunately, right now, the only delineations we have are songs and audio. But like if you look for podcast in the search box, there are tons of like things you should know from history, the stuff you should know podcast.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's in Discovery. And kids can download it, they can put it on MP3, they can listen to it through the device. The other one that teachers really like is the fact that now I can filter out text really easily. So if I'm looking for any kind of a reading passage, and those on the left-hand side are actually sortable now by grade level and Lexile score.
Can I ask something about the stuff you should know?
Yeah.
Because I listen to that at home all the time, and it's occasionally not like school appropriate for my age kids, probably high school appropriate. But is the content here different from what they put out just publicly, or is it, because this is,
And to be honest, I don't know. My guess would be they would have used only the ones.
okay, it has the grade recommended grade level.
Okay, perfect.
So.
Okay. Excellent. And speaking of that, you guys know all of their citation information is in there.
Yes.
Yes, so under your details, they can pick whichever one they want, highlight and copy those so that you have that information. What do you guys use for your citations? MLA. It's interesting how many districts I go into and they don't have one they do as a district. And they're like, well, I don't know, what do you use?
Our seniors use APA.
Do they? Interesting. The other filter piece that's here is interactives. That's going to be games, virtual labs, skill builders, things like that. And then your lesson materials, think Teacher's Lounge, right? These are going to be quizzes, pre-made quizzes, content collections, anything like that that help to tie in. So once teachers get used to it, they really like the new filter, but it takes a minute to kind of see where stuff is now. But do know that that's there. Okay. Now, the big thing, well, I'll show you this too because your teachers may really like this. I shared this with the K-3s yesterday. And because your schools have textbook, one of the new features that we've built in also is the My Notebook feature. So it used to be, you've always been able to highlight and annotate on the text that is in textbook. Okay, it reads aloud to students. They can translate it to Spanish. But now, if they highlight and they take notes, so they get a little box that pops up, we're going to pretend like that actually says something, and it saves their note in their My Notebook. It shows what they highlighted and gives their notes. And they can edit their notes, so if they need to go back in and add a little bit more information, they can do that. If your students don't have internet access at home, you can print notes so it exports them as PDFs. So they could save them on a device and be able to read them without having to be connected. But these are a really nice way to aggregate what they're doing. And whatever color, if you had highlighted in a particular color, whatever color you highlighted in is what it's going to put it in your notebook. Which, one of the things I shared with them yesterday, and this may be something you guys help facilitate, one best practice I've seen with the highlighting, there's only 4 colors, is they decide as a group, like everybody in the school, or in your case, everybody in the district, green is always going to be key vocabulary. Pink is always going to be main idea. Yellow is always going to be supporting details, and blue is what I have a question about, or whatever those 4 things are, so that we're starting the process of highlighting with purpose early. They have the same norms, whether they're in social studies or science or math, and then it becomes habit versus like college Rainbow Bright throw up in a textbook that you're like, don't know what happened. So,
Can the teacher see the notes that the kids have taken?
so the teacher from their classroom manager can log in as a student.
Okay.
So they would just sit down and click log in as student, and that's the beauty, right? So now they can log in as student and click My Notebook and see everything. Where before they had to go like page by page and see what notes were in there.
Because I just love that, like kids just for practicing note taking,
Yeah.
that they could highlight a paragraph and then they could take like what are their actual notes and have that right side by side.
Isn't that amazing? Like we talk about citing evidence and making those connections. That's an amazing piece. Well, and you know, it does go when the students open it. They could always print it because, like we said, it prints to PDF,
Yeah.
and they could submit it
Yeah.
through
Right.
whatever system they want to use, email, whatever, without actually having to print those. So you do have 2 options,
That would be better.
both of which are better than carrying home a crate full of notebooks, right, that sit in the trunk of your car all weekend because you never actually open them. So that's one of the newer features in there that's a really neat piece. So the one thing I want to make sure you guys see is the new professional learning section. So this is like this crazy world unto itself, where you are going to find a lot of resources that may help you to make connections for your teachers. So as you scroll down, you can either kind of select these 4 buckets across the top, or if you scroll down, you can kind of see a preview of what's in the buckets. So this summer, we built brand new step-by-step guides for all of our services. So all of those updates are now reflected. The step-by-step guides are, think user manual, right, with like screenshots and to-dos. There are also little screencasted videos that go with each of those. So if a teacher likes a video, they need some help, they're new to DE, they're new to science tech book, they're asking you for help, you go, here. Like, here's a starting point for you. There are step-by-step guides on Board Builder, on Assignment Builder, like all of those different pieces. The interactive modules are like mini PD courses. These are 45 minutes to an hour. They are a responsive course system, and you get a certificate when you're done with it for an hour worth of credit. So that may be something else to look at, and they have everything from the basics. I think we have 13 courses right now. So like the first 3 are like the point and click stuff, how to navigate. But then there's one on literacy strategies. There's one on ELL strategies. There's one on flipped classroom that get more into what does digital integration pedagogy look like versus everything being point and click.
And where was that?
So those are the interactive modules that are here. But these are a nice way for your teachers who say, like, I need some credit, right? It's that self-directed professional development. So I don't know if this is something that it would be working with Scott to figure out what's the best way, if teachers wanted to do these, to hand them in, right? Or how do we offer that for teachers, whether they have to do at least 5, right? So it's at least a half a credit, but over the course of however long, they could do 5, staple them together, and turn them all in at once. It's nice to have those there. I've also seen PLCs who just do one together as a PLC, right? And they work their way through it. You guys might also get a lot of use out of this new tab, this professional learning toolkits. These are professional development to go. So if you wanted to lead a session on 5 things you didn't know about your streaming, this is everything you need to lead a session on that. When you open it up, it's going to take you to a link for a box folder. The full presentation deck with videos, the handouts, the activities, everything is in that deck. So everything that you need. There's one on Science Tech Book, there's one on Board Builder, and there are several on SOS that are broken down, like, did you want to do it by digital media types? Did you want to do a quick activity? But all the presentation decks, all the links to any handouts, like if you wanted to print some of these packets like I gave you guys, the links to find the packets so you don't have to go one by one through the SOS strategies, you just want to grab them from a box folder, you can do that through these toolkits. So when you open it up, you download the PowerPoint. It gives you an overview. It gives you all the learning targets. So if you had to write it up as a PD, like all the pieces that you need to do that are going to be included in there, along with everything that you need. So that's pretty fun. And those literally just came out 2 weeks ago, and we're in the process of continuing to add more of them. Your Spotlight on Strategies is now linked here. We know we can search for SOS just up in the top, right? But that nice overview is there. All of our virtual field trips have been archived. So if you want to go back and watch any of the old virtual field trips because they're timely and relevant, you can go back and do that there. And you can sort those by grade level, topic, or subject area. So you can go back and find some of those trips. The flyers and handouts that I gave you, that all comes from our educational partners. Okay, so those are going to be links to those resources, a great way to share. Like I would send out, if you're looking to teach about the election, I just send them the link from that, but you may have the cards as kind of a little trigger as a reminder. And then the last one I want you guys to see, and obviously there's tons of stuff here, our VR is in here now. So you can do virtual reality straight from the site. The kids have access to the VR. It's actually embedded into the science and math tech book where it makes sense, like the roller coaster one is in the force and motion unit, but you can go in and do those. But one thing that your students may really connect with is this collaborative projects that's over here. We've worked with Global Labs to do a series of collaborative projects that are global projects that students can participate in. Oh, there's a brand new one today. Like, this literally was not here this morning. So that's kind of, we're adding new ones in all the time, which is super fun. These are global projects that your students can participate in that really help them be a part of kind of a larger piece. So for example, what's for lunch? When they open it up, they explore the 5 food groups and what are kids around the world eating. So the teacher gives them lesson resources and ideas for teaching about this, but then there's a report form and the class submits where you are in the world, so it works like a Google map, just enter where you are. This is what kind of region we're in, how many students in your class had this type of food for lunch today. So do some data collection, what is the protein, main source of grain, some of these pieces. They submit a photo of a typical lunch from their region, right? And then they plan what would actually be a really healthy lunch. And when they submit their data, they can go in and see this world map of all the classes who have submitted this data. So they can start collecting data back. So when we talk about global projects for students and kids, this is a nice entry point into that, right? And involving them in a safe place without a teacher having to go out and find it or come up with it. And that even if this doesn't tie directly to your content, it can be done quickly enough that you could do it from a global learning perspective, not just a kind of plants perspective or whatever that looks like. So that's one of the other newer pieces that's there. So I'm going to pull together for Allison kind of a quick wrap up of like Kelly's favorite things that has this in it and maybe one or two more. But want to make sure that you guys at least had a taste of, gosh, there's really some new stuff in here that's a little bit different than maybe what you were accustomed to seeing from us. So any questions? It was kind of like a big brain dump of
It was
information,
like,
right?
when we went that day, it was like a deeper reminder to open up and really look at what's in there, because I just skimmed the surface when I'm in there. And
I usually like, oh yeah, I did that in Discovery, let me go to my content.
Yeah.
I don't take the time to really
To
explore it like I
investigate.
should.
What was that, one under the
It's called Collaborative Projects,
collaborative?
and it's under
Okay.
the events and experiences
Thank you.
bucket. And I hate to like chat and run.
No,
No,
that's
it's
right.
fine.
That's
No,
okay.
scoot.
Understand.
Please email me, Allison, I'll pull that stuff together for you, and I would love to kind of, maybe we can look at doing some follow-up in a couple months, even just a short, like, I'm just